At 6:12 in the morning, a worker at Abydos brushed sand from a cut in the desert floor. The doorway below him did not look new. It waited under Anubis Mountain, nearly 23 feet down, with its royal silence pressed into limestone, mud brick, and broken plaster. The place was not empty desert. Abydos had taken kings before, and priests had spoken there to Osiris in the dark. In January 2025, Egyptian archaeologists and Penn Museum researchers uncovered the tomb at Abydos inside the ancient acropolis of Anubis Mountain. There are discoveries that announce themselves with gold. This one arrived as a room with its owner missing and a name that would not speak. The burial chamber lay almost 23 feet underground, deep enough for the air to feel older than the hands that entered it. Above it, the mountain carried the jackal god's old shadow. Below it, someone had once planned to be remembered forever. Researchers date the tomb to about 3,600 years ago, during Egypt's Second Intermediate Period, when power broke into competing pieces. That was not Egypt at its cleanest. It was Egypt between hands. Borders moved. Dynasties flickered. A king could vanish while still wearing a crown. The tomb held a limestone burial chamber and rooms capped by mud brick vaults rising around 16 feet above the floor. A royal name was more than decoration. It was a rope thrown across death, tied to offerings, prayers, and memory. The entrance to the burial chamber was decorated, with painted scenes laid over plastered brickwork near the king's final door. Imagine the wet paint drying there, a brush lifting away, a name left behind, bright enough to survive kings who came after. According to Dr. Joseph Wegner, the king's name had originally been recorded in those painted scenes on the plastered brickwork. Whisper. The first wrong detail was not what they found. It was what someone, long before them, had already taken away. Ancient tomb robbers damaged the hieroglyphic texts so badly that not enough survived to read the king's name, not erased by weather, not lost to time alone. Human hands entered the dark and struck the one place that mattered. The mummy was gone. The sarcophagus was gone. Smithsonian reported that those missing pieces left few direct clues behind. So the tomb became a mouth without a tongue. Architecture spoke. The wall spoke. But the king himself stayed silent. Researchers think the owner may have been one of King Sennacherib's predecessors, perhaps Sennacherib or Penchini. Those names sound solid until you stand in the chamber. Down there, a possibility can feel like a candle held under water. CNN noted another possibility. The tomb could belong to a king not yet known from the surviving records. A king with no surviving face. No coffin. No readable name. Only the room built to keep him from becoming exactly this. Abydos was sacred to Osiris in the afterlife, and it served as a major royal necropolis for early Egyptian rulers. That mattered. Burial near Abydos was not just geography. It was a claim. A king placing himself near resurrection. The Second Intermediate Period was a fractured age, with rival powers ruling different parts of Egypt instead of one stable kingdom. History likes clean lines. Actual power leaves smudges. A throne can shrink to a province, then to a tomb, then to dust. In 2014, excavations at Abydos identified King Sennacherib, helping confirm the existence of the obscure Abydos Dynasty. When an archaeological headline names a mystery, listen for what is missing: inscription, body, burial goods, context. The absence is part of the evidence. Wegner described the Abydos Dynasty as mysterious and enigmatic, a line of rulers mostly forgotten from Egypt's ancient records. Forgotten is a gentle word. Sometimes the record does not forget. Sometimes it looks down, sees a name, and leaves it buried. The Penn Museum announcement called the tomb part of the lost Abydos Dynasty, an obscure royal house from the political breakdown. Lost does not mean imaginary. It means the proof survived in pieces small enough to be missed, or large enough to be mistaken for ruin. The wider project continues across a large stretch of desert terrain around Anubis Mountain, with more work still ahead. Every trench is a question. Every wall is a pause. The desert answers slowly, and only when someone is willing to kneel. Smithsonian described the burial as the tomb of an unknown ancient pharaoh because the surviving evidence cannot name him. Unknown is not empty. Unknown has weight. It presses on a room, especially one built by people who feared being unnamed. The name was not carved deep in stone. It was painted on plastered brickwork, where damage could turn a king into a blank. One approach with ancient mysteries is to resist filling the silence too quickly. A careful blank is better than a confident mistake. Wegner said ancient robbers damaged the texts, and not enough survives to read the king's name today. The robbers were not thinking about our history. They were thinking about metal, stone, resin, linen, whatever could be carried back upward. The tomb's architecture links it to Abydos Dynasty burials, but the damaged inscription keeps the identification uncertain. Certainty is often the first thing people want from the dead. The dead rarely give it cleanly. The work was conducted by Egyptian archaeologists with a Penn Museum team, combining local excavation with international research support. Breathes. There is something colder than finding a tomb robbed, finding the one sentence that could explain it, and seeing only damage. The chamber belongs to a royal burial, not an ordinary grave, based on its scale, decoration, and place within the necropolis. A lesser person could disappear quietly. A pharaoh was supposed to leave marks everywhere. Names in stone, rituals, lists, sons. Reports in 2025 described the discovery as a rare window into a dynasty that official king lists did not preserve neatly. Official lists are tidy because someone made them tidy. They smooth over weak rulers, rival lines, failures, interruptions, inconvenient ghosts. Anubis Mountain sits within the Abydos landscape, a necropolis where death, kingship, and divine protection were folded together. Even the mountain's name feels like a warning. A jackal at the edge of burial. A watcher between the living and the wrapped. The tomb was discovered in the same broad region where earlier Abydos Dynasty work had already changed scholars' view of the period. For stories like this, consider following excavation updates from museums and antiquities authorities, not reposts that turn uncertainty into certainty. Penn Museum's report emphasized the decorated entry and burial chamber because those surviving features are what still identify the tomb's status. The room keeps testifying not loudly. It speaks in proportions, construction choices, traces of color, places where hands once stopped. The mud brick vaults were unusually substantial, part of a tomb complex built to carry royal meaning underground. There is devotion in that labor. Brick after brick, sealed under heat, meant for a man whose name we cannot say. Because the sarcophagus and mummy are absent, researchers must lean on architecture, location, and damaged decoration instead. Softly, the emptiness is organized. That is what makes it feel intentional. Someone came for valuables and left the silence stacked neatly behind. The damaged name is the only surviving royal label from the tomb, which makes its loss unusually severe. One damaged patch, and a ruler slides sideways out of history. Not down, sideways, into the part of the shelf nobody labels. Scholars can compare the tomb to known Abydos rulers, but no surviving text currently gives the final answer. This is where archaeology becomes night work, not because of darkness, but because the answers arrive as shapes your eyes must adjust to. The discovery adds another piece to the shadowed history of the Abydos Dynasty, even without naming the ruler. If you read about this find, look for what the team actually says. Likely, possible, uncertain. Those words are not weakness. They are guardrails. The current candidates include known names from the Abydos line, but an entirely unknown king remains possible. There is a strange mercy in that. The missing name does not close the story. It keeps one chair pulled out at the table. For now, the tomb remains a royal chamber beneath Abydos, with a damaged inscription where a pharaoh's identity should be. Support research that publishes context, conservation, and provenance. Old things are easiest to distort when they are pulled away from their soil. If this quiet kind of mystery keeps you company, leave a like or subscribe. It helps the night shift find its way to you. The workers will keep brushing. The chamber will keep giving small things back. A brick edge, a pigment trace, a shadow in the plan. Maybe one day another fragment will answer. Maybe the name is already gone for good, carried out with the coffin and the gold. For now, beneath Anubis Mountain, a king lies in the record as a scraped place on a wall. Not forgotten, not found,